Another very special guest, the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network, the one and only Alfredo Ortiz, joins us live now on the line. Sir, thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News Saturday.
Absolutely. Good morning, Matt. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. So you're out with a new op-ed this week in the Hill newspaper, walking through how the Democrat agenda on with regard to the economy could really jeopardize small businesses. Can you explain that for us? What's the difference between the Democrat agenda and the Trump agenda? And why is it that our small business owners across the country are a little bit freaked out at what's happening in Congress?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you, Matt, for having me. I mean, small business owners, I think really right now or across the nation are really watching with a lot of concern what's happening. I mean, we clearly know the good that has happened over the past 2 years from the Trump administration. I mean, we just saw the report on Friday, which was amazing, blew the doors off any estimate that was out there. I mean, now, there have been more than 5 million jobs, Matt, that have been added since the 2016 election, which is amazing. And for the first time ever in the American economy, we have more than 150 million jobs. And in fact, there are 7 million unfilled jobs out there, right? And so we know, I mean, absolutely, the last quarter alone, we added 370,000 jobs to the economy, which is amazing. And from a small business perspective, we're excited because if you look and drill down into those numbers, Matt, where those gains are coming from, it's widespread, but it includes construction, manufacturing, the retail trade, health services, leisure, for example, hospitality. These are all sectors that have very, very strong predominance in the small business area, right? These are the mom and pops down the street that really support the American economy. And these are the small business owners that have really benefited from the amazing, low regulation and low tax environment that has now, that is now part of the American economy. And all that is at risk because the Democrats have clearly stated their agenda. I mean, they want to raise minimum wages up to $15 an hour, which is clearly going to hurt, our restaurant industry, for example. I don't think folks know this, but the average profit margin in the restaurant industry is just about 3 to 5%. Some people think it's 30, 40, 50%. It's 3 to 5%. That's it. And so these minimum wage hikes are going to kill our small business owners. Overtime rules, again, an opportunity for hardworking supervisors, for example, that have really worked their way up. Now it's going to impact them as they become hourly workers again. That's ridiculous. The repeal of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. I mean, one of the biggest benefits to hit the economy, they're saying they're going to repeal that, a 20% deduction for small business owners that clearly helped them and has made small business optimism go through the roof. They're saying they're going to take that away. And then they're also going to be looking at adding more entitlement programs. This Medicare for All piece that they're talking about, Matt, it's going to cost the American economy $33 trillion over 10 years. They'd have to double taxes, and it still wouldn't cover that. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
So, yeah, speaking specifically about the Medicare for All thing, because I think we're starting, and then also if you look at that and you combine that with their talk about this Green New Deal, which they all seem to be endorsing now, the quote-unquote Green New Deal, which is basically Van Jones's old Green Czar socialism stuff, repackaged into a nice fancy new word, right? I mean, but that's what it is. It's government-mandated environmental socialism, right?
Matt, it's nationalizing the energy sector and many other industries. I mean, it's a full-on socialist agenda.
Yeah. So, but if you put those two particular things, like we can do the wage stuff and all the other things later. I mean, who's going to pay for that stuff, right? I mean, so Medicare for All, I think the estimates are what, 33
trillion.
Right, 33 trillion. And then Green New Deal is probably somewhere thereabouts, right? Like, so if you put those two things together, who pays for that stuff? It isn't like the politicians in Washington and the elites in New York and LA are paying for that. It's the American workers. It's the small businesses out there that pay for it in their taxes.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, if you think about, for example, the minimum wage alone, right? $15 in New York, for example, probably doesn't sound that bad because it's a pretty expensive city, right? Mm-hmm. But imagine $15 minimum wage nationally in West Virginia, in Mississippi, in Louisiana. That's going to kill the retail sector. It's going to kill the restaurant industry. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where they have no sense. I mean, it's easy for Nancy Pelosi, who lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion in San Francisco, to say, hey, yeah, $15 for all, because San Francisco is just ungodly expensive, as is California. But she has no clue as what it's like to, average Americans. And when you look at even, this Green New Deal and basically outlawing affordable energy, I mean, that's coal and natural gas. That's going to be one of the most regressive taxes, effectively on the poor. I mean, the idea of cheap energy basically goes away, and all is left with is expensive energy, which frankly the poor and middle class have to pay for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now the other big thing here is, so we've obviously seen enormous economic success over the first 2 years of the Trump administration, and I don't think the president gets enough credit for this, or his administration gets enough credit for this. If you look at the Democrats, and by the way, Barack Obama will literally go out there and claim that all of this success is his, right? Like that he laid the groundwork for this. It's all the Obama administration. The Democrats will say, well, Trump maybe had something to do with it, but Obama was the one who did this. It seems ludicrous to me. It really does. Can you explain for us what exactly the president did over the course of the first 2 years of this administration with the Republican Congress in the House and the Senate, and there's still a Republican Senate now this year? But what is it that the president did that his predecessor didn't? Because if I remember back during the 2016 campaign, Barack Obama was out there saying, well, you can't get the economy going to this level that Trump has gotten it going to. You need a magic wand. Well, I think abracadabra, Trump did it.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And I think when you look at really what it boiled down to, there are really two big things, right? Regulations were sky high. And by the way, we did a poll back in 2016 among small business owners, a national poll, and they came back with three things that were hurting them tremendously. It was overregulation, overtaxation, and the lack of access to capital and credit. And I'll tell you that the Trump administration has addressed all three of these in an incredible fashion, which has really led to this incredible growth, the 4% plus growth we're seeing in GDP. And we truly expect that we're going to be able to have a 3.1, 3.2% year-end number for 2018 based on what we're looking at. But that really has come down to this idea that he reduced regulations tremendously, the overregulation, the taxes, right? The American economy wouldn't be thriving the way it is right now if it hadn't been for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. That was an incredible boom for the economy. And we're going to start seeing some of those investments also really take off in this first quarter. One thing, Matt, that I think people will start realizing, or we need to start talking about more, is that a lot of small business owners actually held off somewhat on those investments because there wasn't too much clarity until basically the fall of 2018 in terms of the rulemaking coming from the Treasury. Right now that there's a lot of clarity, people understand that. I think we're going to start seeing investments. And then we're also going to see the tax refunds coming, right, from the Tax Cut and Jobs Act as well. So, we were going to start seeing that infusion. But overall, again, the lower regulatory environment, the lower tax environment, and frankly, the fixes that they did to Dodd-Frank that allowed small community banks now to keep lending to small business owners because, frankly, because of the Dodd-Frank bill, a lot of community banks closed their doors, over 2,000 community banks, and that really shut off credit for small business owners. Now credit's flowing again to these small businesses, and they're taking that and they're investing back in their businesses. So, those three things alone were really the main drivers of what we're seeing now in this economy.
Yeah, so now the jobs numbers that came out the other day, one of the other big things that came out in these numbers is record low Hispanic unemployment in December, 4.4%. It has never been that low in the history of them tracking the number in the United States of Hispanic unemployment. I think that goes back to somewhere in the 70s or 60s. The point here is that it's almost as if all of these different things, the big picture approach, the holistic approach that Trump and his administration have taken to the economy is a rising tide that raises all boats. Now, going into his reelection, as you see these other Democrats embracing these radical policies, it's not just Democrats on Capitol Hill and radicals like Ocasio-Cortez embracing Green New Deal. We see Beto O'Rourke has come out and endorsed it. Bernie Sanders is championing all of this stuff and Medicare for all and all these different things. So is Liz Warren. These are mainstream Democrat candidates. These are people that have a chance at becoming the Democrat nominee for president president who are embracing the socialism that would crush the economic success that we've seen under the Trump administration. So what is Trump's message as he goes up against those people? What does he need to be talking about? Does he need to make the case? I mean, much like Reagan did in 1984, that this is we're morning in America again here. I mean, and it's thanks to President Trump and his policies that we've gotten these economic successes.
Yeah, no, I think you made some great points there, Matt. And I think one of the things that, we urge the president to continue to do more of in his tweets and his communication to the American public is talk more about the great success that the American economy is currently through. Because right now, you won't hear that in any liberal media, right, that there's great economic success. The only time you hear is folks like yourself, Fox News, et cetera, that are actually talking about the benefits of the Trump administration, what he's done for the American economy. I mean, you talk about Hispanics, for example, but when you look at the demographics across all segments in terms of what they've been doing, record low unemployment for blacks, Hispanics, Asians, women. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you look, for example, and this really has thrown people off, I think, the Democrats for a loop. There was a recent AP survey that came out that showed President Trump with a 32% approval amongst Hispanics. This has shocked the Democratic community because they thought for sure, because of all the discussion about the wall and stuff like that Hispanics were just going to walk away from Trump. Well, they didn't. 32% approval amongst Hispanics.
Yeah, and that's higher than he got in the 2016 election.
Exactly. And why is that? And the biggest reason, I believe, is because they realize that what he truly understands is that he's a business person. He understands how to run a business. He understands how to run an economy and how to make things grow. And guess what? They're benefiting from that because a lot of these Hispanics, for example, and blacks and Asians are very, very strong in the small business community. This is what they do. This is how they thrive. And they are thriving under President Trump. And this is why I think we're going to start seeing some surprises in 2020 that the Dems aren't going to expect from these demographic groups.
Yeah, so now the other, and I think probably the most important economic indicator that we've seen is, and we've seen this repeatedly, is that wages are on the rise too. So not only are people able to get a job, but they're getting paid more because of the policies that we're seeing the administration put in place, because businesses have more money to be able to pay people more, and because there's a higher demand for workers out there, right? There's all these different openings, and their businesses have to fight to attract talent. And that's the nature of the competitive market out there. It's not a forced wage increase, and that's the difference between the Republican policies and the Democrat policies, where the Democrats want to use the government to mandate a wage increase, whereas what the Republicans and what Trump want to do is they want to naturally cause a wage increase so people have more money. And nobody wants to see people make less money. They want people to have more money. But the Republicans actually have been able to deliver that. Trump has actually been able to deliver that, unlike Obama, unlike Pelosi. Can you explain for us what is it that has been causing the wage increases in the Trump administration era?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And you're absolutely right. Average hourly earnings, for example, have risen 3.2% over the past 12 months. I mean, that's amazing. This is the third straight month, for example, that the year-over-year wage gains have actually exceeded 3%. Now, prior to October 2018, the last time average hourly gains exceeded 3% was actually April of 2009. So we're seeing incredible wage growth, and it's driven, to your point, by demand, right? Because more businesses need to hire folks. There are 7 million unfilled jobs out there. There is such demand for labor and for that alone is driving the wages, right? So that's why we're seeing that wage increase. And one thing, Matt, I want to get a little wonky here and break up some of that wage growth because this is an important point. If you look at kind of white collar versus blue collar, they call it supervisory versus non-supervisory. The non-supervisory wages, the blue collar wages, are going up faster than the white collar. This is the first time that's actually happened. So this is great for our hardworking average American workers out there in this country because the jobs in manufacturing and retail and restaurants, they're all hiring. I mean, go out to any city, Matt, and you'll see this, right? Look at the storefronts. Every single one has now hiring signs up front. When I go to meetings with small business owners and associations or whatever, they'll say, hey, by the way, did you happen to bring some labor with you because we're looking for labor? And this is what's driving those wage increases. A thriving economy is what actually drives this, not mandated wages.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Where can people go to learn more about what you guys are doing?
Matt, thank you. I'm going to do the shameless plug. JobCreatorsNetwork.com. We are constantly advocating for our small business owners across the country. As you know, there are 90 million hardworking Americans that are dependent on the success of small business, 30 million small businesses out there that employ 60 million hardworking Americans. So we couldn't be more excited about the work we're doing. But jobcreatorsnetwork.com, we implore people to go to that site. Please sign up. We need your help. We need you to be part of this fight because it's a fight that we have to really win on this one.
All right. Well, Alfredo Ortiz, sir, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News Saturday.